Hey, hi, how are you? My name is Simon and welcome back to my channel. Today we're talking about Ethan Nestor's, formerly known as Current Gameplays, documentary called I Have to Do This. Warning, 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 sirens, whatever, warning, warning. This video will contain spoilers for the documentary, so if you have any plans to watch it, I suggest you watch the movie first and then come right back. However, if you went to the premiere yesterday like I did, without further ado, let's get started. Last night, October 26th, was the red carpet premiere for the documentary. I went with my friend Gabe. I'll flash up some pictures here. Feel free to applaud. It was very fun on the red carpet. We said hello to Ethan. It was great. Okay, enough about the actual event. Let's get into the movie. The documentary was pieced into chapters. I believe there was 8. I thought that was a very, very good idea. I've seen many tour documentaries and by far Ethan's was the most digestible because of the way they put it together. Having it in smaller sections really worked in their favor. I think it worked really well. Nothing bled into each other. The whole documentary had value. There was no fluff. There was never a time where I felt like that scene could have been cut out or wasn't needed. Getting into the bread and butter of the documentary, the narrative that they created was so compelling. The documentary starts out with Ethan monologuing about something in gymnastics called the twisties. The same monologue repeats at the end, but there's more to it at the end. It finishes. I thought that was brilliant. In my head, I saw it as Ethan starting a trick in the beginning and then metaphorically landing on his feet in the end. The documentary was very Ethan in a sense. There was a lot of humor. We got to hear the whole I Drank Piss Once song. There was so much piss. Dude, I almost expected there to be cocktails or beer being served in those urine sample cups. Ethan's probably gonna watch this and be like, why didn't I think of that? Anyway, yeah, it was very funny. The whole fight scene between Ethan and Justin was phenomenal and totally unexpected. Ethan, I am so glad that you decided to reenact that very real event and get beat up by Justin for a second time. That's true dedication to the film, man. There is so much I can say about this documentary. I really appreciated that this was a deep dive into Ethan's mindset and self-doubt and anxiety, especially post Unis Honest. You get to see a much more vulnerable side of him and get to know what it's like to just be someone's friend. There's still people to this day that only see Ethan as the other guy in Unis Honest. I've seen Mark's own fans say stuff like that. It's rough to see how much it affects him because I personally watched Unis Honest because I knew who Mark was, but I stayed for Ethan. I fell in love with his passion and his giggly self. So knowing that there's so many people that see Ethan as his own person and he still struggles with that whole concept is hard. I give Ethan so much respect for being brave enough to open up in front of his fans like that, is in a documentary of his freaking tour nonetheless. I mean, like, dude, you wrote an entire show about facing your fears and conquering your self-doubt, and to admit that, hey, this show didn't actually magically fix me, that is a huge move. I don't know many content creators that would admit to their entire audience that, hey, sometimes I do get in a little over my head. Speaking of which, I'm really glad that we got to see the aftermath of Ethan announcing the fact that he had to cancel his European tour. I could go on for hours about how wild the transparency and vulnerability is in this movie. I believed that segment in particular said so much about who Ethan is as a person. It humanized him a lot. It showed that even rich white twinks that drive Teslas can mess up. We all mess up. We all have our flaws, but not every one of us would be willing to admit that in front of a theater of hundreds of people, or even post it on the internet for everyone to see. I admire that so much. Moving on, I want to talk a little bit about the humility Ethan had at the premiere. He wanted everyone to stay in their seats when the credits rolled to recognize everyone who had worked on the documentary. He gave everyone so much credit. I find that so refreshing, especially given the state of how the film and entertainment industry is right now, that somebody actually cares about their crew. I know that's messed up to say. I know I shouldn't praise Ethan for the bare minimum, but I have to give him kudos. That was really refreshing. I only have one thing to critique on. I really wanted to see the different ideas that were being tossed around for the actual show. Aaron had mentioned that they tried to do a live show for Ethan a few years prior, and I think that was very interesting. Even if the documentary ended up being a little bit longer in runtime, it still would have been very interesting to see more of that process of everything coming together, like the merch design, the poster design, stuff like that. I just would have liked to see more stuff like that. The documentary is still great. I'm not saying that it wasn't because it didn't have this specific part. I'm just saying that it would have been cool to see on top of what it already was. Finally, to close out this already long video, I want to say something to Ethan. Ethan, if you are watching, I am so proud of you. You, Justin, Austin, Zach, Andrew, Sarah, Jocelyn, everyone in this documentary did such an amazing job. People don't give content creators enough credit for what they can do. People write YouTubers off as idiots that just sit on their stacks of money all day, when this documentary is proof that it takes a lot more elbow grease to entertain people. It takes a lot more determination and sacrifice than people think. Thank you. Truly. Now that we've reached the end of the video, I have a little announcement to make. I'm going on tour. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Can you imagine? This entire video is just a sneaky way of promoting myself.